Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 76. We are at PCA National Headquarters. By the time you hear this, we will be back from Works Reunion, but as the day we are recording, we are getting ready to go out to Works Reunion. Around the table, of course, we have Manny Albin. We have Damon Lowney, who's been absent for a bit, and we'll catch up with him why that's been. And, of course, we have Robert Forsyth at the controls, making it all happen behind the scenes. For those of you that are watching us on YouTube, take a look at our setup. Notice anything that's different? Well, we've been trying to always chase good audio with the microphone setups, and in the past, some have commented we look like Wilson from Home Improvement. And you're staring at my hair because
I thought that's what we were going to talk about when you said you noticed something different.
Not my hair, although my hair is a little bit different. But we removed the microphone popper shield things and changed up our microphone covers. And so hopefully this works out in terms of audio quality, but also you can see more of our wonderful faces. So speaking of YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are making our way to 100,000 subscribers. So if you enjoy it, we would love to get that thumbs up. If you have questions, feel free to drop a message in the comments. And of course, please subscribe if you haven't already. So Damon, it's good to have you back. I think Manny actually clarified to the audience that we didn't kick you off the show. It's just you've been pretty busy.
Yeah, I heard that. It seems like when the three of us, it's been rare when the three of us are all in the office. And, it seems like if you're not in the office, it's really tough sometimes for the podcast to go off. If I'm out of the office, I'm not the showrunner per se. Kind of can do it without me, and it's all good. But this last week actually was because I was filming some 1 mile reviews, and this was actually in Indiana, just very close to Chicago. I flew into Chicago, and we have a very nice member who I believe he doesn't want his name in the credits, so I won't mention it here. But he has 4 or 5. What was it? I had 2 Targas 997s. One was a 9971. One was a 9972. One's in Nordic Gold, which is a pretty rare color, and it's just optioned to the teeth. One's manual, has a sport suspension. One has PDK. He had a Cayman R that he uses as his track car with PDK, and then I also drove Cindy Jacobson's 718 Boxster S, which is brand new. I think it had 251 miles when I started the drive. So
it's not even broken in yet.
Not even broken in. Well, a little bit, but not quite. Not all the way.
Did she get a PDK or did she get a manual?
PDK.
And it's in like the
Python green.
Good
so
for her.
It's a good comparison. One of my review videos was 718 Boxster GTS 4.0 versus 718 Cayman S in Python green with PDK. So it's like the same car, just not a hardtop.
And that is a car that I would buy any of Cindy's cars. Cindy's cars are always in perfect condition, well loved, well driven. Man, I can't believe she let go of her beautiful Boxster.
Yeah,
that car
an
was
04 and 05, I think it was. It was pretty.
It was a 96. It was
a 96.
96, and she had it since 04, 05.
Yeah, it's a 96. And before
she had
that,
a long time.
Before that, she had a 968 as well. So very well cared for cars. Those are the people that you want to buy cars from. Back to the person, we won't mention his name, but he's a dear friend of PCA. He's a relatively newer member. Yep. I met him, I believe, on a Treffin event, and a super nice guy, amazing photographer. So I won't say your name, but thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very
for
much.
allowing us to do the 1 mile reviews. And he was heavily into another make or several other makes and models.
Yeah, BMWs, Mini. He loved Mini for a while. And,
I was gonna stay neutral, but I was saying where I was going was he came to PCA with his very first Porsche and loved how the community kind of embraced him and like brought him into the fold to do everything PCA. And I think most of his fleet now is actually Porsche.
Yeah, pretty much. He sold his last Mini not too long ago.
Yeah.
He still loves them, and
He still loves them,
it's
but
funny,
yeah.
BMWs, Mini Coopers, and you would never guess the next one that he was. So he buys cars. He has these periods or phases
Yes,
where he just
yes, yes.
loves and buys as many and loves them as much as possible. Honda Del Sol. He once
That's
had
right.
like
That's
8
right.
or 10 Honda Del Sols at once. He was totally obsessed with
those
them.
are kind of a cult following. I remember when they came
Yeah.
out.
I wonder if he had any that did not leak.
Probably, actually, one of them, I'm sure. If not, he takes
were,
very
were
good care
Del
of his
Sols
cars.
known to leak? Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah,
know
it's
that.
like a convertible, right? So it's
Yeah.
but he used them as
The back window.
Oh, the back window.
yeah.
Interesting. Those were cool. Those are during those times we were running a lot of hatchback Civics and
Yep.
coupe Civics and my whole JDM phase. I've never had a Del Sol, but
Yeah, me
do,
neither.
I do remember, and a lot of people did like K20 swaps and
Yep.
big motors in this little Target thing.
Yep, exactly. The response to the Miata.
Yeah.
Front wheel drive response. So
So you've had some car issues lately, in
Yeah.
addition to the TDI that was.
So it all started with the TDI that got totaled, and I just finished. I got the Mazda 3 replaces that. It's a 2015 Mazda 3 that I bought for my girlfriend in case I forget what I've shared since all of this has gone down.
you told us that you bought it. Yeah,
Yep.
and you proceed to quickly.
Yeah,
put
I
money
lowered
into
it. Yeah, Coney coilover or coilovers, struts or shocks with iBox springs, but that was original suspension, and I've got spark plugs, some stiffer engine mounts that I'll put in later. And the reason later is because
Wait, stop right there.
Yeah.
So we were supposed to autocross together
Yeah.
this weekend at the Chesapeake program, and then you reached out to me on Friday. I think it was.
Yeah, so it
very
was
sad.
So we already knew the Cayman's AC was not working. So if I left it off, it seemed to
Yeah.
run fine. I've done a couple little errands, or when I've been dealing with the Mazda or whatever, I've been able to drive that, just no AC, and it's been very hot.
Yeah.
But I have another car. It's my 98 Camry for those who are listeners, and another friend of mine was borrowing that for a couple weeks while his car was getting fixed. So I have one daily driver, then the Porsche is sort of I'm trying not to drive it, and then the Camry is being used by somebody else. So I'm low on cars for me. So my friend, I like to have one running car, one car that doesn't need to be fixed. It doesn't have any problems, like as a backup. And as my friend was driving the car back to my house to drop it off, and I was going to go take him to the shop to pick up his car, the Camry died, just stalled on the middle of 695,
Oh, no.
like 2 miles away from my house.
Oh no.
And it's a P1300 code, I think, is the one of the 2 or 3 that are on there that is what this is.
And what does P1300 mean?
Could mean a lot of things, but it's a ignition. It's like the ignition igniter or something. So it could be just the ignition coil. Mm-hmm. And after watching a really long video about this particular motor and an Avalon and a guy going through all these diagnoses and then checking each one off, it ended up just being the coil pack had gone bad. So I'm crossing my fingers. It's just
So
a
if it
coil
was
pack.
a coil pack, it would just run really rough. It would still run though.
So P1300, it tends. It's tough to. I don't understand exactly what's going on, but P1300 shuts off the fuel injection.
Oh, so it's affecting.
So if
okay.
if something like that happens, the car you
saves
can,
itself.
It cranks
Yeah.
and then it dies, and it
I
cranks
see.
and it dies. So when that happened, then I have the Porsche I can't autocross right now. Or at least I don't feel safe doing that with the
Yeah.
which you'll see later on what the AC compressor looks like, and with the Camry just not running, and I don't know why. I have one car, and
Yeah.
I can't brake,
Yeah.
and that's my transportation right now. So I decided not to autocross my girlfriend's Miata
Yeah.
on Saturday. So in order to fix cars, and
I'm not laughing at
Yeah.
you. I'm laughing with you. I feel bad for you because I know what it feels like when.
it's just all happening right now.
Yeah, when all this stuff kind of
It's
comes all at
pouring.
once.
Yep.
But I think you should share with folks, since many haven't seen an AC compressor when it goes bad. Yours is
So-
and the belt, for those of you that don't know,
The belt looked fine.
The belt looked fine, but
Yeah.
there's only one belt.
It's only
right,
one belt.
and it runs the complete
Everything.
system on the
Yeah.
car. So
Everything but the timing.
yeah. So the thing is, if it locks up, then it could leave you stranded. If it keeps spinning freely and he doesn't turn
Yep.
AC, then you're fine. But you're kind of taking a chance with that.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about how AC compressors work. I know that there's a clutch, and
Yeah.
if you're watching YouTube, you can see what looks like a clutch failure. And then if Robert flips over to the third picture, this one, that's what it's supposed to look like. So that whole
Yeah.
center part of the pulley looked like it just blew off and melted. And
Is it rubber right there? Where
I
that-
think so. Yeah, it's like a
Wow.
rubbery plastic.
Yeah.
And so what was happening was, while I was in Palm Springs, every once in a while, when I came up to a stoplight and pressed the clutch, the car would die. So that was the first symptom.
Yeah.
And long story short, everything worked well through parade. Then I autocrossed the next weekend. And I left my AC on for one run, so I don't know if that progressed it more. But on my way home, I stopped here at the office to pick up a cord,
Yeah.
going to Starbucks, and all of a sudden I hear some weird noises, and you can feel the car sort of shaking a little bit. And I think a puff of smoke. And I turned the AC off because I was thinking, well, maybe I should just turn the AC off, and it seemed fine. I drove to Starbucks,
Yeah.
and I decided when I leave, I'll turn the AC back on to see if, after driving it maybe a mile, turn it back on to see what happens. As soon as I did that, you can feel like, things starting to bind up.
Right.
So I turned it off and it was fine. And that's sort of what happens with an AC compressor failure is your car might start to stall as you're pressing the clutch in when you're coming up to a stop. If your AC's on.
Well, it was certainly we missed you because a lot of people asked. They actually,
because I was on there.
Yeah. And they said, so did Damon bail out because you were coming? Like, did you get nervous? I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
at this point, he doesn't get nervous with me showing up anymore. But I said I might have had a fighting chance because you were going to come up in
the Miata.
But
Yeah.
it was hot, dude. So it was a good thing you didn't come with your car because
Yeah.
I mean, it was a scorcher, but it's really good. People always wonder or ask about how we do inspections or tech before an autocross, and obviously something like that we may have seen, like because we look under the hoods, we look in, and we don't do like a full on colonoscopy on the car. But
You
we
wouldn't
look
have
for
seen
some-
that if I had my AC off. My car
yeah,
would
not
have
on your
passed
car,
fine.
because it's
Yeah.
the engine's hidden. But we did have one car that when it pulled up, we noticed like there was a little bit of a vapor coming off of it. I'm like, that's not good. And then so I kind of kept an eye on the car, and I looked at the car afterwards. The coolant, the water pump was leaking, and there was like a puddle. And so we told the
yeah.
owner, I was like, yeah, you probably want to try to limp
Replace
that
that.
home as opposed to autocrossing and do more damage to your car. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
always good to take, sometimes to have another person look at your car because you don't necessarily look in the same
That
places.
wouldn't have been Damon's one. You would never.
No, Damon's we wouldn't have seen. I mean, the only thing that his would be given away is like the car dying, right? But
Yeah, but with it off, the pulley looks fine, but it's
Yeah.
I don't want to push it.
You don't wanna
That's
take a chance.
An engine, if
Yeah.
that engine blew, I wouldn't be.
I mean, when I've had
driving
my
it for-
compressor to go up, they've never locked up.
yeah,
They just stopped working, and
Right.
I guess the seals must have not the grease seals for the clutch,
Mm-hmm.
but the seals holding the freon probably will let go, and
Yeah.
wasn't working pumping. I guess.
yeah. I've had plenty of AC clutches not work, but never like cause the engine
It
to do
worked. The
anything.
AC worked perfectly fine up until that puff of smoke. Right up the street from the office. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there was a puff of smoke. 'Cause they were scraping the road to repave it, so it was a little dusty. But I'm pretty sure.
So have you
of
researched how involved is it to replace I see that you got a replacement, obviously.
Yeah, I got the replacement.
You got to be able to capture the freon, so that's a kit. You need.
Yeah, I got the vacuum system and all the different dials, which is not cheap, by
Yeah.
the way. That is really expensive. But I went for an Amazon credit card, and they give you $200 off. So whatever. I just did it. I was like,
Here comes the slippery slope.
exactly. So it's really tough, almost impossible to get to the third bolt, the rear bolt of the compressor that stands on its own. There are two in the front on the pulley side and one in the rear. It's covered too much by the intake system, the intake runners. And some people are saying you need to remove the power steering reservoir to access the bolt or something. I can't see how you can access those bolts, but more importantly, the AC lines to empty the system properly without taking the driver's side intake plenum off. So
This one you might want, if you haven't already,
Yeah.
phone a friend, so to speak, or phone
Yeah.
one of the tech committee tech committee folks and see what they think.
See, double check, But if I do indeed need to take off that plenum, then that also starts. That's fairly deep. That's a pretty big part that goes pretty far down into the engine. So, do I just do a bunch of wire in there, like a new power steering pump or reservoir, since the intake will be off? Do I get the IPD plenum, which is so much easier in a 996 to install, which we have a video on.
So if anyone has done a AC compressor replacement, share in the comments if you have any
987.1 Cayman.
Any suggestions for Damon while he's in there.
Yep.
Manny and I, we took a road trip. We headed north to New Jersey.
Yep, New Jersey Motorsports Park.
So we had a little fun there. Caught up with Connor in the Schattenbaum Club race. It was very cool to kind of be at the track again. I hadn't been there for a while, and to see all these amazing cars.
Have you ever run New Jersey?
I haven't. I've never run there. I've been there. I don't think I've even done a parade lap there.
I felt pretty old because I was telling Connor that, I raced there when it first opened, and I pointed to this water tower, and I said, the first time we raced here, that was halfway built. So it wasn't the whole, round part of the water tower wasn't done. And, of course, now it's all black from dirt and everything. And I said it was all white, and it seemed like, I guess it was over 15 years ago from the first time we ran at NJMP.
They had a pretty good weekend. I think they had great weather, a bit humid but dry and sunny, and some of the cars that were running, those of you that are watching on YouTube, this was the third race, the last race before the Enduros, and people were looking like they were having a lot of fun. It was cool to see all the setups and going through the garages. And if you've never been to a club race, I highly recommend you at least going to observe one. For me, it's a bucket list. Hopefully, I know some can get into it relatively cheap. Maybe if you're in 944 or Spec Boxster, where a car might be in like the mid 30s, and then the expense really comes, because per weekend you're talking about tires and support. And someday, I know, Manny, you club race for how many years?
You could never do it. Seriously, because when we played blackjack and it was $5 a hand, you acted like you were losing your house.
I know that is totally true. Like, and
you got to spend $1,500-$1,700 on a set of tires
to be competitive
for the weekend, not for the season.
I know. I'm so thrifty that I know it's highly unlikely that I'll ever become a club racer, but. Yep. I would love to, though, because it looks like so much fun, and I love the whole idea of the spec classes. That would be cool. I probably would like to do Spec Boxster.
Yeah, Spec Boxster, Spec 944, although Boxster would be more fun, I think.
I think so.
Always what's fun is when you have people that you can run with.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily meaning running at the front of the pack.
No.
It's just if you have to find someone that is running almost your identical lap time. Mm-hmm. Some of the best racing I ever had was for like 10th place.
Yeah.
It was because that whole race you were working, you were in your mirror looking, or you were chasing someone the whole time you're trying to pass, and you get out of the car when you're done, and you walk up to the guy and you hug, because it's like incredible that you haven't hit for those 45 minutes. And some of the worst races where I've actually won, there was no one close to me. The other class car was too far away to catch up, and I was just cruising. It wasn't really racing, if you will.
And yesterday it was exciting. We weren't just watching the two cars that were up front. There was cars in the middle of the pack that you would see change places, or at least in the turn that we were coming in. They were like mere inches from each other, going at a high rate of speed, but they they all got through the turn quite clean. So that's pretty amazing. But yeah, maybe someday I'll get to that world. All right, we did catch up to Mr. Pete Trumper, who's well known in Zone 1, Zone 2. Pete was
has an article coming out. Everyone should be getting their panorama soon.
Okay.
And in Pano, almost before you hit the classifieds, is his article that I wrote about Pete and his two 964s that he owns. And so we brought him some extra copies so he could hand out to friends.
But the car of the day was not a 964 for him.
No, well, he had two of his cars there. He had his 1970 914-6 that he had club race for years. Club racing driver.
An iconic car.
Yeah, when I met him, he was driving that car, and then he was showing us his brand new
GT4
981 GT4 that
And
he
I
bought.
took a video of this really special feature for you, Damon. It's a technical one. There you go. You'll see. Hopefully, it's a video. So hopefully, we can run it. But what you're looking at is the center console, obviously.
Yep.
And
And a reverse gear lockout or something.
First and reverse lockout.
First and reverse. Both.
Well, I mean, first for sure.
Wait a second.
So see, he
I
puts it
think
in.
it's second gear, he said, didn't he?
Yeah, first and second gear. So he locks it out. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Very
Interesting.
very simple, but there's like a detent. So when he gets up to the higher gears, he just moves that lever over and puts a screw down, and it's like a mechanical lockout.
Yeah, yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah, it definitely is. If you want to, is his GT4 just like a straight up race car now?
The GT4
Is
has
it a
lot-
race car?
No, it's not. It's not a factory race car. It's a street car that the previous owner, who
Yeah.
was engineering for Penske, he set this car up, and so the car is completely set up for the track.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but is it like, is Pete using it for racing?
Not club race. He retired from club racing.
Okay,
so
yeah.
gotcha. He's doing driver's ed with
ultimate DE car.
Okay, DE car sort of
Yeah,
thing.
and it's got like
Very
extra
nice.
arrow underneath, and like just like that lockout, every little thing about that car has been very well thought
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, very cool car. It looks like he's having a lot of fun, and he's running times. I think he said very similar to his 964 race car.
Yep.
Nice.
Right?
Well, I mean,
it-
that's not super surprising. I mean, with
Yeah.
that many years between them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean,
More power,
964
longer
has a
wheelbase.
lot of. It has the shorter gearing, the
True.
almost like blueprinted engine.
Yeah.
It's
And
suspension
set up
yeah.
100% for the track.
Yeah, and later than the Cayman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Manny, anything you want to share about the weekend?
No, we had a good sub.
We did. We found a place for a Philly
Coming up, I
cheesesteak
told
after.
Vu, I said, this is the only place to eat around the track. Shannon Sub Shop, which is about like 3 minutes from the track, and they had a very good sub. I never thought about asking what size to get. She never asked.
We just figured it was one size.
I think that was a small.
No, couldn't have been.
I think it was.
No,
She
no.
said 10-inch was a small.
Was that a 10 or was that a foot long?
And when she cut it in half, it looked like 2 5-inches to me.
You're probably right. So that probably was a small. But
Yeah.
It was delicious. So you looked like you had some fun on what was released over the weekend, which was the quote unquote 1 mile review
Yeah.
of the 73
8.4 mile review.
73 RS. I kept watching him like this is going on and on, but I was okay with it because you could
Yeah.
hear the engine and you could hear how much fun you were driving it. Obviously, you weren't driving at 10 tenths
No.
with the value of that car and being on the street, but you can certainly tell, how much fun you were having with that car.
Yeah, it was definitely very well set up. And he told us that Carl said he set this car up for touring, so it wasn't a museum car. He just gets driven out on the field. It's a car he uses a lot. In fact, he drove it, I think, 300 miles to Parade because his transportation to have it shipped fell through. So him and his wife just jumped in it, and
And he was in the
Drove
Concours
it.
too at Parade.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
did he win his class?
I don't
Remember, I don't want to spread misinformation there, but I'm sure he did well.
But we talked about this car when we walked the field.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I think it was 2 RSs next to each other, and
One lightweight and one touring.
yeah. So
Good
it was,
looking
It was a
car.
lot of fun, and but I think Damon did a great job with the video. And
Had you driven an RS before?
I've never driven. I've driven an S,
Uh-huh.
but not an RS. And a lot. We drive these older cars. There's so many variable factors on how well it's maintained. Are the bushings original, or have they been replaced? So many different things that you're probably not really driving it like it was in '73. But this one was a delight to drive. It was very
Beautiful scenery. Now, was it intimidating? Like, is that a 7-figure car? Or close to it?
I think it's
Six
still
figure,
six-figure,
probably.
but yes, especially for a road you've never been on,
Yeah.
and you're looking, as you can see, there's not exactly a lot of room for error.
No,
if
no.
you go a little too wide or have to, there's no PSM on these
Yeah,
cars.
no please save me's in this car, yeah.
So it's your driving skill that's saving the car. So yeah,
One thing you said on the video that stuck with me, and we take this for granted, especially with modern Porsches, are the brakes. Like even in a Macan or Cayenne, no matter what Porsche you're in a modern Porsche, you never worry about brakes. But in this car, brakes were not the same in terms of like full on.
No, somebody driving a modern Porsche, and modern meaning like from 964 onward,
Yeah.
is
There's a lot of effort.
Going to feel
Yeah.
mushy, if you will.
For its day, it probably was at the top of the rank, right? For its day.
Yeah, because they were still using drum brakes on a lot of cars in the rear.
Yeah, but compared to today's standards, beautiful, beautiful car. And the owner, super nice guy. I remember you talking to
very nice
him.
guy. Yeah, we had a great conversation coming and going, and you know, when he just would always tell Damon, he would say, "It's just a car. That's all it is, just a car."
Yeah,
Yeah, just a car.
Definitely got some great ratings. And if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube Live now. Check it out. If the car doesn't make you drool, the road and the scenery certainly will. You captured, I think that you did during the golden hour.
Yeah, it
The lighting
was.
was
Same
perfect.
as the GT4 RS, just a day earlier.
Yeah, people were so like they're watching a dream.
Yeah, no, it was. I wish we had roads like that out here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we have nice roads, but nothing like that.
We got to drive a couple hours to get roads like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Up in
exactly.
the mountains, at least.
exactly. All right, let's jump into the news here. The electric 718 Boxster.
Well, we've seen it before on spy photos. This time it's the top down.
Mm-hmm.
And what struck me was how much it looks like a. That's the one about the camber, Robert. It struck me what is it basically looks like a Boxster.
Yeah,
There's nothing, radically different where you say, "Yeah, that's an electric car." It's
the title was kind of weird for me. Like it says, lowers its roof to become a big hairdryer on wheels. Like I can't think. Like is that positive or negative?
I think they're making fun of the fact that when the Boxers first came out, some people called it the hairdresser's car.
Some people just can't
I
let
think
it go.
that was a weird title for me. And if you've driven a modern Porsche, the air management inside the cabin is very well thought
So it
out.
probably
Like,
wouldn't dry your hair.
That's
not
I
all
know.
that
That's
well.
like obviously you haven't driven a modern Boxster because it doesn't blow your hair around like you would think in a car that's not. Anyways,
Yeah.
I just thought it was a weird title, but the car looks good. Looks very aggressive. It looks to me. I think Manny and I always talk about this. Like, why does an EV have to look like an EV? And this car definitely doesn't look like an EV. It just it just focuses in on being a sports
It
car.
still has the grills in the front. It's,
Yeah.
and obviously they're trying to disguise that because it also has an exhaust at the rear.
Right.
That looks like a sticker they
Right.
put on to make it look like an exhaust pipe.
Yeah.
They still need cooling. Brakes still need cooling potentially. And the best-selling electric cars, and let's just say Tesla because that's
They're doing great.
best-selling one.
Sure.
They don't look like EVs. They didn't look like EVs, especially remember the early Model S's still
Model
had like a
S's.
small grill before they closed it up.
Yeah.
And all the maybe not all, but a lot of the EVs that looked like they were probably either hybrids or electrically powered, they didn't sell quite as well.
Right. Like the Nissan Leaf.
Yeah, the Leaf, which sold, but
Yeah. They
Not
look
like
like
the Tesla.
EconoBox EV cars, and
who wants it?
Who doesn't? Yeah, we don't necessarily want that.
So not surprising that the Boxster EV is going to look like a Boxster with Taycan headlights, right?
Yeah. So the next news item, Manny and I were just talking about camber because coming into the stop box at Chesapeake, people kept saying I was lifting my front tire coming in, and I was talking to Manny. I was like, "Do you think changing camber is that a bad thing? But would changing camber help that?" Anyway, so we
I
were
don't think
talking.
it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, in my
Front inside tire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well-
Exactly. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm losing a quarter of the traction because that tire's up in the air.
Yeah, but you're not. Because you're loading up so heavy on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Hardly any of the tires going to be touching anyhow.
Yeah.
It's actually slowing you down. In Pinewood Derby,
Yeah.
the key was to have only go down on 3 wheels. The one wheel wasn't even touching because that's friction and it slows you down. Oh. So it was. It's interesting that
If one of your rear wheels was in the air, then I'd be worried.
yeah,
But
that's
front
the
wheel,
drive wheel. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyways, camber was fresh on my mind, and Manny sends over this article. And why has someone thought of this before? Because it seems to be like, duh, like
Well, actually, it's so camber. So when you're adjusting camber on a car, especially for performance, you're trying to maximize how much of your tire is actually touching the ground.
right.
And That's usually done through testing.
Yeah.
I just remember when I had my club race car, Michelin had a deal that if you ran Michelin tires, they would come to the club races, be in the pits. You just pull into the pits, and their engineers would run out, do temperatures on all three areas of the tire, send you back out again. Then when you finish the session, they would go over with you and say, here's what we're seeing. Here's what you should do the next time you get your car aligned or something. Tell them to change this. So over 3 club races, we managed to get my tires 5-degree difference from center, outside, and inside, which was like more than you could dream of. And so the car actually performed better. So doing this on the fly now, I just wonder what kind of data they're going to be using. So when you're going down the straight, you need very little. You don't want the tires touching too much on the front because it's just going to slow you down.
Right.
Because you're just going straight. That's why
Right.
dragsters have those really narrow tires.
Yeah.
They want to reduce as much rolling resistance as possible. But when you get in the corner, now suddenly as you're going to the corner, you want the whole width of the tire gripping that pavement. So that's the giveaway of having a lot of camber. So when you have a lot of, like Pete had 4 degrees negative camber on his Hoosiers and in the front. And so that when he goes into the corner, the idea is that whole width of that tire is going to be gripping the corner.
Touching, yeah.
He's going down the straight. You could probably see daylight
On one side of the tire.
on the tires.
Yeah.
And outside of the tire probably
Right.
because you don't need to touch that much. So
Yeah.
being able to do it on the fly is very interesting. It's I think it's cool that they can do that, but I would think it's going to be like the suspension adjustments on the GT3 RS. They're going to do a lot of sharing or crowdsourcing of information of what tracks you can do this, because if it's going to be changing it, does that mean when you hit the straights, it suddenly puts in a lot of negative camber to give you less rolling resistance, but as you enter the brake zone, it suddenly changes it back, so now you have full.
Yeah.
Or is it the same for until you change it again?
Right. So
It should be a little more predictable, right?
That's what I
I think you're right. It's very cool that the technology will be there, but the question is, in applying it to the real world, does a normal driver without a engineering team behind him or her be able to fully take advantage of that?
If they can make it as seamless as rear wheel steering, which you don't feel it.
Yeah.
They've done a phenomenal job. You don't know that it's working,
Right.
but you like it.
Yeah.
And if they can do something like that, just to enhance the whole experience, then more power to them. It's even more impressive. But I just think back to the old school way of what you would adjust camber for, and it's not something that you are adjusting constantly.
Is that something that you could use calculating from the speed that you're currently at and the G-forces? Is it loading up front or loading up in the back? And depending on those parameters, it changes your camber settings.
So here's what I think. More grip in the turns or less grip in the turns?
More grip in the turns.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So as much camber as you think is necessary to make the
dive,
car,
yeah.
Handle well. And you don't really worry about, what's it doing when I'm braking or what's it doing on the straight. I say, you set it to whatever track or road, and just drive the car knowing you have a little bit more grip. Because to me, that's how camber has always worked. When I've gotten more negative camber, the handling of the car doesn't necessarily change hugely. You just realize, if you only do the front, then yeah, which this is, you're going to get more front end bite, and the car will oversteer a little bit more, which is what I was looking for. But overall, you just have more grip on the end where you're giving more negative camber. So if that's what you want, if you want the car to oversteer a little more on a particular course, then that's what you would do. I wouldn't think about the braking part of it.
But then also, if you have too much negative camber and you have irregular road surfaces, then you get sort of that tramming effect, right? So as you get into higher speeds, you want it to kind of straighten up a little bit so that it's more stable at high speeds, as opposed to with a lot of camber. Because I know, like, when I've had a lot of camber on back in the day on my Mustang, like, highway roads was just terrible because the car would want to steer itself when the road was irregular.
Yeah, this thing for street driving, that's like really kooky.
Right, exactly.
I can see for the track.
For the track, yeah.
But yeah, for street driving.
And we're just talking about the front. Did they mention would this be something for the back as well?
It wouldn't be for the rear from what they're talking about in this story. It would just be adjust the front, and keep the rear as is. The other thing you got to think about is, when you change camber, and especially depending on the type of suspension system that you're using, if you take more negative camber, your toe's probably going to change. Like,
Right, sure.
Example, my Mazda 3, when I was doing the camber this weekend, I got the camber to where I wanted it because I had positive 0.1 or 1 degree on one side. So I have camber bolts, and whenever I pulled the camber up on the side, that
It changes your
changed
toe.
the toe pretty dramatically, actually.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course, it's a strut-based suspension, so it's not double wishbone on a GT car. But, a lot of Porsches still have McPherson strut-based front suspensions, like the 718 and non-GT car 911s.
So how do they account for the change in toe? That would be interesting.
The steering rack would have to be variable and be able to make up for it. So that's the bigger, and I'm wiggling around here, and you can hear my chair creaking right now. But I wouldn't worry about the braking zone too much. I just feel it out and know you have more grip.
So, man, did you see any car that made you miss the club race days?
No.
That chapter's done for you?
I can also remember how much money I spent.
I'm not going to lie. I used to remember watching you and hearing about your club race escapades. And I'm like, man, that dude must have a money tree in the back of his house.
It was a great 12 years. I did like 90 club races.
Yeah.
We have so many stories,
Yeah.
and we had so much fun. And I always refer to it as the glory or golden era of club racing because there were so many cars. We just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
We didn't think that one day they would experience a change. But yeah, I mean, you would have 30 cars in your class.
Jeez.
You have about 80 in a group, but just 30 in your class. If you finish 15th, you were happy in your class because that's why we got above the crease racing, because I used to joke if you fold the results in half, if we can finish above that crease, we were happy. We won.
That was considered winning.
We didn't even think about winning your class because you had so many fast drivers and cars. But just like anything else, it's and tires are just part of it. It's just so much just maintenance because you're racing. You're trying to beat the next guy. So unlike driver's ed, where you can make the tires last maybe 4 or 5 events, if you want to be competitive, you're looking at a set of tires almost every weekend. Ooh. You would take the old set and use that for practice and whatnot, but you had a set for rain tires, and I hear now they even have a set just for qualifying.
Oh man!
It's and then of course there's transportation, and that's we did everything on our own. We didn't hire any shops to do our stuff, but it was still, every maybe other race the car was going in the shop or something, and it's a very well, it's just like anything else. It's an expensive sport. I always look at other stuff like horses or airplanes, and I think, well, that's hobbies that make mine look cheap.
Right.
It's not a whole lot, but it was fun watching, and you can still get involved in club racing as a volunteer.
Yeah.
Either in the National Club Racing Program or regionally, like Potomac Region does their club race in September at Summit Point, and they're always looking for volunteers, and you actually get to work the corners. You go to SCCA flag school, and they teach you how to work the corners. And if you really want to have a incredible experience, you sit in one of the tubs during the club race, because there you see the cars in action, and you're the one who's going to be waving the flag if there's an accident, or you're going to be radio in to control to let them know, what's going on. So it's different ways you can still get involved and be part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And shout out to all the volunteers from this past weekend at the Shat and Bob Club Race, and of course the national volunteers that organize and make it all happen. And hopefully we'll see you at a club race near you. Let's talk about a couple events. We can announce and be the first insider announcement for Unstock.
Yes, we spoke about how we went to look at different spots a few episodes ago, but we found a new not a new place, but a place for this year to hold our event, and that's going to be in San Diego.
San Diego,
at least.
Yep.
We're changing location a bit, just south. So
My hometown.
So for those of you that were expecting that we would be kind of in the LA region, it's only not even 2 hours? 2 hours?
Yeah, depending on where you are, and Vista's pretty far north as well.
Okay,
San Diego.
So
County,
it's not all the way down in San Diego.
No,
it's in
no.
Vista, right? Mm-hmm. So it's at HRE's headquarters, and it's a beautiful facility, plenty of room.
It's a factory.
It's a factory,
not just a showroom. It's where they build the wheels. So that's where we're going to be, inside the factory floor, what was it, 20 cars we can fit
At
inside?
least 20, 25 cars inside.
Inside.
Plenty of cars outside.
yeah.
We'll have sponsors and vendors and food trucks.
We're actually going to have
DJ.
a Porsche parking only area.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't get into the show, your car's not modified, you got a boring GT2 RS that's stock.
He put air quotes up. Don't be offended. He was the air quotes.
I had to unfortunately turn away people in these beautiful cars because they weren't modified last time.
Modified by Porsche.
Yeah.
We have a place for you to park.
Yeah, it's in a nice industrial area, which should be fairly quiet in terms of regular traffic for a Sunday. So we will have the run of the area, plenty of parking, as Manny said. In addition to parking, plenty of parking for the show cars, and we will have Porsche
The ones
parking.
inside the factory floor are going to be phenomenal photos.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea of Unstock is, yes, we want to put the spotlight on modified Porsches and have a good time, but we also want to bring you to a location that you might not have seen before, and it's an experience into itself to go into the factory and see all the different stages and how these custom wheels are made, all the different technology, machines, materials. They have a beautiful showroom, of course, and you'll see they are true gearheads, not just Porsche, but all makes and models. And as you look at their wheel designs, as they develop things for various cars and in larger sizes and even smaller sizes, they go down to, I believe, a 17-inch custom wheel for an Acura NSX. Because why? They can do so. But you can see some of the influences that the gearheads at HRE have in making some of the coolest wheels, and I'm super excited about it. So again, that's going to be November 12th, Vista, California, not too far from LA. So hope to see many of you there. Registration for Unstock opens September 13th. Again, your car must have 3 significant modifications. Visible.
Yeah.
Like if we have to walk up to your car and ask, that means it's not modified enough.
If you change your A-arms, that doesn't really count.
And again, we want to present a collection of cars that are obviously modified. It's not that we don't want you. It's just please register if it's a visible modification, so that it will the display will look nice. And if you don't have modifications, as Manny said, we'll have a spot for you
Just
as well.
come out, hang out, and send us a good picture of your car.
Yep.
Because we get submissions where they write some really cool stuff about the car, and then they look like they took a photograph 100 yards away.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say, where am I going to place this car? Is this so cool I'll place it in the front, and it's hard to tell just from a photograph that's taken poorly. So, you don't have to be Jeff Short type photograph, but just something that you think will look good.
Yep, absolutely. Let's give a quick update on Rennsport Reunion 7, because that ball is rolling fast.
Yes.
We're coming up quick. And actually, while we're in Monterey for Works Reunion, I'm sure we're going to get some updates and visit some locations that will be, for Rennsport.
Really?
I would think so. We're going to go to the track, right?
Are we?
Yeah, and you're going to go see Mr. Canepa, right?
Well, Mr. Canepa is like an hour north of Monterey.
Well, aren't you going there to get the Project 964?
Yeah, I'm driving them there.
You're driving him? Okay.
Yeah, but we're taking it right back to.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyways, latest updates on Rennsport Reunion 7.
It's like Vu said, it's getting to the home stretch here. They keep on adding on more Legends drivers. The key here is even if you don't have tickets and you haven't decided to go, they're still selling general admission tickets. You don't have to go all 4 days, although if you're a Porsche fanatic, I'm going to tell you, you will not get bored over 4 days. They got so much going on. Saturday night, I think I've mentioned, we can't announce on air who the artist is or band playing, but I think it'll be worthwhile.
Absolutely worthwhile.
Not Taylor Swift.
Not that big.
Not that big.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool, especially for it being a free show. And I'm kind of glad they're not advertising it, because I think we'd sell it to a lot of people who weren't Porsche fans would probably buy the tickets for Saturday just to show up for the concert. So it'll be a nice, I think, fairly intimate, even though there'll be a ton of people for just Rennsport at the event. Friday night, they're doing a showing of Transformers with the Porsche in it. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't seen that that movie at the end of Rennsport. If you hang around, they'll be doing it in the PPP, which is the Porsche in the Park.
Porsche
paddock.
in the park. Yeah.
Paddock, PPP. Yeah, we are located at the Porsche Platz, which is the same location we have been in the past few Rennsports at Laguna, which is used to be called Cayman Island. Now it's called Porsche Platz, which I found out last week it wasn't an island.
It's a peninsula.
It's a peninsula, but it just doesn't sound the same.
I'm going to make it stick.
But on our side though now there will be Porsche Classic and Porsche Exclusives. So
Did you get a call about a special car that they might be placing on the peninsula from Kathy?
yes, a 935. They're going to be bringing a vintage 935.
Vintage
not the,
935.
Not the street.
Would that be Moby Dick?
She didn't say.
That'd be cool.
She just said that.
Moby Dick is one of my favorite cars.
Yeah, I was going to say I would hope she would call it Moby Dick, but maybe she
doesn't know
not familiar with Moby
yeah.
Dick. Either way, we're getting a cool 935, and I told her, I said, I know what's going to happen because last time we had the RSR Pink Pig, and that was never scheduled to be over there. And
Isn't that the one you sat in?
No, that's the one that Roxanne sat in and had my wife, and then she had to crawl out. When I saw her crawl out, I was like, "There's no way I'm getting in there." Did I get in? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure you got in.
The exit was not. Getting in's easy. It's the getting out part.
I have lots of video.
The getting out part that's painful.
Yeah.
But that was never planned to be there until the last minute. So I told Kathy, our contact at Porsche, that this happens at Rennsport. Is that especially once we're there, people are showing up with special cars, and Porsche's trying to find places for them because it wasn't scheduled. And it's cool, though. I mean, it's good problems to have when you're, trying to place the GT1.
Yeah.
Because you certainly don't want to turn it away, and you want the public to be able to see it. But once again, the general admission tickets still available. Housing, if you got to stay an hour away, I just talked to a member last week, and he said, if I got to stay an hour away, he goes, I'll just grab some coffee and enjoy the ride in.
Yeah.
And I said, and as you get closer, you see more and more Porsches coming in. So it's not a bad traffic jam to be in if
not at all.
you get in traffic. And it's been worse 1 hour drives I've had elsewhere. So
and the weather will be cool.
Yeah, there's still housing. I'm not going to say it doesn't rain, but it's never rained.
Yeah, knock on wood.
For us there.
Made that obvious.
That time of year. And it just doesn't happen every year. It doesn't happen every 5 years necessarily. It's just I'm sure PCNA, who runs the event, would love to have it every 10 years. It's so much work to put on this kind of event. But boy, we're going to have the who's who of Porsche at that event, and some very cool cars, and probably a lot you haven't seen. The bar to enter your car is so much higher this year. That you're bound to see some more special cars. It looks like we have like a 901 coming to the PCA 75th anniversary display. Because they're maxed out, they already have a 901.
Oh
These are
my
both
gosh.
prototypes, the prototype
Wow.
cars. So we have one coming to our display. It's just that crazy. Where
Is that one from Wisconsin, Chicago area, I want to say?
No, it's coming from Europe.
Yes.
Europe.
Yeah.
The blue one?
Yeah, the blue one.
Ah,
I met
cool.
a guy who was driving a 901, I believe prototype, a red one, who's out in the Midwest. But it was long not known to be a prototype. So
yeah.
So I think this is an insider tip because you had mentioned coffee, and we have a group that's going to be presenting coffee, I think, on the peninsula or Porsche Platz with us, right?
Can you say who it is? Since
Can I say who
I
it is?
know. Oh, I see.
I think I can say who it is.
I would expect for you to say it.
Yes.
At
so,
the very least, there's
and
coffee.
actually it's a great lead into one of our future events, and that's the folks from Princess Cruise Lines. Our friends will be there, not only sharing the trip that we have in December 9th, but they will also be setting us up with coffee in the morning.
You think they can change the names or the sizes like Starbucks does, and the tall could be Titanic?
There we go.
So the segue there is Treffin at Sea. If you haven't signed up yet, you might want to consider it. It's December 9th. Currently, we have over 800 PCA members signed up for this cruise. We're shooting for at least 1,000, and I think we can do it between now and December. And they are also talking about getting folks from Guinness, not the brewery, but Guinness books a world record of as far as having the largest car club gathering at sea.
At sea?
At
Wow.
sea. Well, I know last
Really
year.
make a record for anything,
I
can't
know.
you?
Last year was the largest diecast concours at sea, and we are going to repeat that for this year. So something fun for everyone. And again, if you haven't checked out what they offer, I mean, it's 4.5, 5 stars in my mind, and the prices are phenomenal. So if you and a loved one, or maybe even your family, want to come join us out at sea in the Western Caribbean and
Now, if
do.
you sign up 1,000 people, do you get upgraded to a better room?
No, I
Above
stay
sea
in. I
level?
stay in the same room. And the thing is, you know what? Someone asked me about that, like about having a window or a balcony. Again, for me, I'm kind of a simple dude. I just want like enough room and a clean bed. You know, inside cabins are much more inexpensive, but they're still like a good size. You don't see the outside, but how often
And
are
you don't have to lie down and sleep. You can stand up.
no, there's room to lay down. There's room to lay down. But like you're always out. Like the only time we go into the room is to like take a shower and go to bed. And then,
I would suggest using YouTube, and there's a slew of reviews and recommendations for first-time people who've never cruised before. The ones I've watched highly suggest spend the extra money and get a room with a balcony with the view.
It's not much more, and that's a good thing about it. And the other thing is, Princess Cruise Lines has a special concierge, the number that we have on our website. Like it doesn't go to the general call center that Princess has. Princess has created sort of their own white glove concierge just for PCA members. So when you call in and you say, I'm interested in Treffin at Sea, they'll know exactly what trip that is. They'll know exactly the options that are available to you. And then you're kind of in and out pretty quickly, and they can answer any questions you might have. So looking forward
They will be sponsoring Coffee in the Morning
Yep.
at the Porsche Plots.
And at Rennsport, if you have questions about not only the Treffin at Sea cruise or any other cruise they have to offer, they can answer it.
But it's not like a one of these things where you have to sit through an hour
No.
presentation. No. You can get free coffee. You don't have to listen to their presentation. It's just
it's not
relaxed,
what are
like
those
Hearth
things
and
called
Coffee.
when you buy like a condo? Timeshare. It's not a
Timeshare.
timeshare. It's not a timeshare presentation. Just come and have coffee, and if you're interested in the cruise, talk to them. If not, then just go about your business. So no commitment. Just wanted to also let folks know, we told you it would be pretty popular, and it has sold out, and that is the PCA open house. We've sold out, and the reason being is not that we don't want anyone else there. It's just we have only so many spots for parking, only number of meals that we can provide and such. And then in order for it to be enjoyable for everybody, we had to put a cap on it. So if you didn't get into the PCA open house, I apologize for that, but those that did get in on time, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have some tours. I've got a new piece of equipment where I won't have to yell at people when I'm giving tours. I tried it out last week.
The megaphone or something?
No, it's worse.
It's worse.
Oh, boy.
It's worse. So when we were
It looks like a nerdy Iron Man.
Yeah.
Iron Man has that thing in the chest around thing.
Yeah, so it's like that, but it's actually like a little PA. So when we were see, I'm always thinking about PCA because even though I was taking a tour at the Tower of London, the beef eater, right? That's what they call him, the beef eater.
I guess, I'm not sure.
That takes you on the tour. He had this personal PA system where he just had it around his neck, and he had like a microphone that's very similar to a McDonald's takeout microphone, but it projects your voice loudly and clearly.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty cool, and it's very compact. We had like a microphone handheld thing that we did in the past, but it was really bulky, and it worked, but it was really bulky. This one should work just fine for the open house. In fact, we're going to try it at Works Reunion for the juniors. Nathan's not coming to work, so I don't know if Manny, maybe you'll be walking around and taking people looking at cars.
Yeah, of course.
You could use it and tell me how well it works.
Taking people or kids?
No, people.
Okay.
You're not in charge. I would not put
Yeah,
you in
kids
charge
aren't
of
people, are
kids.
they?
Yeah, you are definitely not in charge
I'll
of the
go all
kids.
Catholic school on them.
Oh my goodness!
My golden roller out.
So, anything you're looking forward to in particular with Monterey coming up? We're gonna see Spider RS and the X, right? Mission X, I'm thinking.
Are you asking me or telling me?
I'm telling you, we're going to see Spider RS
Are we going over to the
to the barn.
Yeah.
Yes, we
some
are going to
point.
go over to the barn.
I'll be there on Thursday early for interviewing somebody. So
Yes, and actually, I was going to ask you if you're going early to take Manny and Bogdan with you for social media stuff.
yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
We'll do.
Can you say who you're interviewing?
Sure, why not? I guess. Rod Emery. It's
Oh,
for
cool.
that giant
for
to
a-
giant
for a
killer
video. All right.
Yeah, cool.
video.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so Mission X Spider RS, no ST. I would be very surprised if there's ST. And let me see what I'm looking. I have to go through my notes carefully in my head so I don't say something that I'm not supposed to. Did I talk about how I'm excited to see what they're going to be presenting at Rennsport?
No.
So I'm thinking, and this is not confirmed, but I'm thinking that they always have a special car for Rennsport, right? Like they always have a Rennsport edition. So they got to have something special coming.
Is there a car they haven't been able to sell that they want to get rid of some models?
No, cars they can sell. They don't.
Throw
There's
some
no-
decals on 'em.
I was about to say there's nothing.
That's pretty much what the Rennsport edition was.
There's nothing that can't be sold. So then, what about like any kind of the like Skunk Works activity, like the 935 that showed up?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, the thing is now with Porsche, I mean, if it's roadworthy, it's going to be. It would have been at the Nürburgring. I mean, they just test everything at the Nürburgring, and that's how we find out when you see these cars disguised as people just hanging around. The Mission X, I don't know how roadworthy that is, or if it goes at speed, it may be rolling.
Yeah.
But
718 EV's got to be at some point, right?
How about
wonder if that's
how
one of
about
them.
GT2 RS? Because we've seen some like spy
yeah.
shots or predictions about
no,
that.
have we seen the RS spy shots yet?
I have no clue because an
don't
RS
think-
looks a lot like a GT3.
But I haven't
RS.
seen anything that says this is what we think is the new RS.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I've got a feeling.
But
Porsche's
I mean,
not going to not make a GT3.
I was about to say it's like it's
So-
part of the pattern, right? That
Yep.
that a GT2.
So aren't they ready for 2020? They came out with the 992. Mm-hmm. So they got to be closing in on the 992.2.
Yeah, you would think
Right?
so.
That's what I
Yes,
thought was.
but before the 992.2, there should be a GT2 RS, or the 992.2 will be announced, and then the GT2 RS shortly thereafter as sort
You
of the
mean
swan
the,
song.
the, not, yeah, 992.1.
GT2 RS. Like
there was
that's-
no 991.1 GT2 RS, so if it's same pattern, then the .2s have to come out first for the 992, and then they'll announce it.
So
like
Oliver
you're saying.
Bloom said the hybrid is not coming out to 2025, which means next year sometime we'll start to hear it.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to bring the hybrid to Rennsport, but it doesn't sound like it. That would be a big surprise. I was really hoping to see the 992 hybrid run at Rennsport. I thought that would be really cool. But
I don't think so.
I haven't heard anything about it, and we're getting pretty close. So
Yeah. So we would expect the ST would be at Rennsport, right? So something
Yes,
that
probably,
something
yeah.
something that it would
I'm
have
sure
to be.
the ST will be there, Mission X will be there.
Yeah. But it has to be something that
718
complements
EV?
it.
Anybody?
Oh,
Is that going to
718.
happen? Because that's what 2024.
What's going to come out first, the 718 or a Macan EV?
That's
Oh, I don't remember. Gotta
that's
I mean,
I
I, think
didn't-
the
I didn't-
718 would get more excitement because we've all been waiting for a
Yeah.
sports car fun EV.
I didn't even think about that. That would be kind of interesting.
Macan EV is 2024, and I'm 2025 for the 718.
But will they use the
EVs.
Macan as the? This is their 75th anniversary. This is
Yeah.
60th anniversary of 911.
Or do they bring
this is
both?
Rennsport.
Do they bring both
They may.
the EV Future and
Yeah.
bring the Boxster and the Macan, even though they might be like early not prototypes, but like early pre-production models? They can kind of show off the performance of those cars.
That's what I'm hoping.
There will be there will be
interesting.
tractor racing.
At the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Tractor.
I was wishing I was a very good driver because at one of our meetings they were saying they had 7 spots left open for drivers to drive the and they meant of course professional drivers
Right,
who were
right.
going to be at Rennsport
Yeah.
to drive a tractor, and I was like, oh, That would be all.
I've got a feeling a bunch of them remembered the last time and said, it sounded like it would be fun, but after I jumped into the tractor, it was really boring the whole way through.
I think it would be fun just because it looks cool. It's just like silly fun. It's like me driving my K truck. It's just you can't help it but just smile as you're doing something.
I don't think
silly.
any. Some of them looked like they were taking it seriously.
Yeah, no.
But other ones were like shortcutting it over top the over the grass.
I like the one with the wings, the one that mounted the wing on the back.
My favorite was the one who laid flat to be as aerodynamic as possible. And I can't remember what driver that was, but that was awesome watching him laying flat. To produce,
aero advantage.
Yeah. Plus, you had master, you had juniors in there. It was all different types of.
Man, it's coming up quick.
Yeah,
I'm getting a little nervous, but it should be a lot of fun.
year.
Are you still looking for? You're still looking for volunteers?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think we're up to 500. Sharon said so.
Okay.
We're nearing the max for volunteers, but you get an event poster and a tube, which I think is probably going to be like $50 or $60 itself, and a T-shirt that we saw that's very cool. It's almost the same as what Porsche is using for their people.
Yeah.
That you can't buy anywhere. So it's and the shifts are I think 3 to 4 hours depending. A lot of my friends are working the corrals, and I said it's kind of like Cars and Coffee.
Yeah.
Except this, Cars and Coffee, you're not pointing parking spaces out. Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
I said, but when people come in, you just kind of walk them to or show them where the parking space is, especially the afternoon shifts. I said, by then, most people are parked, so you're either getting people that are coming back from lunch or people just showing up at the time. But the morning is when you have the whole stream of cars coming in to park, and they're pretty busy. The rest of the time, you're just hanging around with Porsche people, what you would do for free anyhow, and now you're getting a shirt and the event poster, of which I'm hoping to have Dennis Simon on the podcast. I ran into him at Cars and Coffee, and the poster's just been released, so I'm hoping to have time, but for next e-break, I hope to write a history of the Rennsport posters, and Dennis he sells them out of his studio, all from the second Rennsport when he got involved up to now. But it'd be interesting to hear from him. He was telling me some of the stories because he got hired, I think, by Bob Carlson.
Wow.
And to do the posters and just different stories he was
And
telling
he lives
me.
not too far from us.
He lives in Maryland.
Yeah.
And he had a beautiful Morgan that he brought to Cars and Coffee. But yeah, he was filled with a lot of stories about what it's like to work for Porsche.
Another insider tip for those of you that like to shop like I do, just know that merchandise at the last Rennsport was, quantities were not fulsome. So when you get there, you want to start shopping probably sooner than later. But more importantly is know that at the Porsche Platz or at the Peninsula or at Cayman Island where we're at, we actually have our own shop there. So
For the
first time, and thank you to Porsche and the organizers for allowing us to bring merchandise that's not only PCA branded, but it's also Rennsport branded. So it's very unique. None of the stuff that we offer will be available elsewhere in the entire facility.
And
so,
like Vu said, if you like it, buy it.
if you like it, buy it. Don't hesitate.
Because I can tell you, PCA isn't buying a whole bunch because it's obviously members' money, and we don't want to get stuck with a lot of clothing that we can't sell or we have to bring back and whatnot. So they're being very conservative with the quantities, and I know a lot of people are coming, but they're still being conservative. So,
and we've seen the artwork of the merchandise that's coming, and it's very, very good looking stuff. And it's not if you've been to a Porsche parade or you've been to Works Reunion or any other national event, typically we have a store that's beautifully laid out, much like the Gap or something like that. But here we're actually selling out of a retail container. So think of it more as like if you were to go to a concert
or a NASCAR race,
and there's a selection of items that's maybe pinned to the back wall, and you can sort of choose from that selection. So we will have a decent selection, a decent amount of supply, but it's not going to be endless. So the tip here is shop early and buy it if it's available.
That's what we try to do.
All right. Anything else before we sign off, guys?
No, we can't wait till talk about Monterey. Your haunted house.
Oh gosh, I've been pushing that back in the back of my mind.
We expect a lot of videos, photographs.
Yeah, so I
want like the Blair Witch Project kind of video.
I'm definitely bringing headphones. I'm bringing that little holy water bottle.
Did you get a crucifix yet?
No. I'm good. I'm good.
That doesn't work on him.
I'm good. So we'll see how it goes. We'll report back later next week. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you aren't currently a PCA member and own a Porsche, what are you waiting for? Grab your VIN. We'll get you set up on PCA.org. If you're looking for your Porsche, and Bogdan earlier was talking about a 01 996 that he found, join the test drive program, and we get a lot of access to the resources on PCA.org. You'll get to see all the cars that are available for sale on the mart, so on and so forth. Remember to follow our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos, Porsche Club Insider, all one word. We love it when you give us a thumbs up, a like. Be sure to comment. We read each and every one of them. And if you have a question directly you want to send, you can send it to podcast@pca.org. Stay in the know with all of our newsletters. I don't know if Robert threw it up there, but from e-brake to Mart Fresh News to Performance News, head over to pca.org and you sign up for our free newsletters. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.